Hello, gentle marketers. Welcome to episode 48 of the Gentle Business Revolution podcast, the show where we talk about marketing your business by disrupting the current marketing paradigm and changing it to a gentler approach, one that's based on empathy and kindness. As always, I'm Sarah Croce. I'm the host on this show, and you know that you're in the right place if you are a heart-centered entrepreneur or change maker who is looking for a different, a better way to market your business, or you are an entrepreneur who is simply tired of the traditional marketing model and are ready for a paradigm shift. Finally, you might also be a marketing impact pioneer working for an organization who does business for good. This episode falls under the P of promotion, and more specifically, we're talking about public speaking or speaking on stage. Yikes, as an introvert, that is still one of the things that makes me very nervous just thinking about it. So with my guest Dolores today, we talk about whether actually introverts can be great public speakers. So whether that is maybe just a myth that introverts don't make great public speakers. We also talk about the main mistakes that she sees people make when speaking on stage. We then talk about TED Talks because that's one of her specialties, and we go through the structure of a good TED Talk, how to begin a TED Talk, how to kind of tell stories in a TED Talk, and how to end a TED Talk with a call to action. And finally, I also ask her about her opinion of the future of public speaking post-COVID. Dolores Hirschmann is an internationally recognized strategist, coach, speaker, and founder of Masters in Clarity, a coaching practice that helps clients clarify their idea worth sharing and implement business growth systems. So without further ado, let's dive in. Hi, Dolores. So good to talk to you.
So good to see you today as well. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for taking the time. I'm so excited. We just kind of discussed offline that we have this common connection through Lausanne, which a lot of people don't even know where that is. And so I'm like, woohoo, a client
exactly where it
in Lausanne. Yeah, that's great. So yeah, I'm looking forward to this episode that we're recording about speaking and speaking on stage. And you have experience and kind of specialize in especially TEDx talks. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm. Yes. So as a TEDx organizer, which I ran a large event here in Massachusetts for 3 years, I no longer organize my event just because I just run out of time. But that process as a volunteer with that event taught me a lot about how to connect with audiences, taught me a lot about what is stopping speakers from speaking or entrepreneurs, or I call them ideapreneurs, people with big ideas. And so today, Masters in Clarity does a lot of things, but one of the things, we specialize on clarity of message. That's our thing. And one of the support that we offer is helping people position their message for a TEDx stage.
Right. So as I mentioned, I am featuring this episode under the P of promotion of my gentle marketing mandala, because speaking can really be considered as one way to promote our business. But I guess we need to be also very careful not to consider it as a promotional activity. I think there's a difference between, speaking as part of the promotion, but don't make it into like this publicity speech, right? It's you talk about storytelling, for example. So I think that is a big player in terms of how you look at speaking and you talk about emotions as well. So tell us, how is it different, the way you look at speaking from like these, keynote speeches where you just yawn and you feel like, oh, you're just being sold to the whole time.
Yeah. And I think, when we get into I know your mandala and the P of promotion, and I think you can look at promotion from the perspective of the process of having people know about your work, right? And if you really think about it that way, it's about communication and the spoken word to help people know about your work. And so it's really, the promotion that feels invasive and aggressive is what I call the push, right? Mm-hmm. Like just push information down your throat, whether you want it or not. I'm going to be in your face until you buy, which is one way of doing things. Not my way. And Sarah, I assume not your way, but one way. And then the other thing is the pull, right? And I know marketing 101 is push-pull strategies. And the pull means that the audience is engaged enough to pull information from you, the service offer or the business owner. Right. And speaking is a great way to do this in any environment, whether it's a TEDx or any moment, whether it's a one-on-one conversation in a cocktail. It's about using the spoken word to share what you do and what you believe, and mostly important, what you stand for. Because the truth is, nobody wants to buy your products. Nobody. Right. Nobody wants to buy my coaching. Nobody wants to buy yours, Sarah. But everybody is attracted to what you stand for, because it either aligns or it doesn't. So if they're attracted, it's because the values align. Mm-hmm. And everybody wants to buy the solution that you offer, or the kind of life they could have once they solve the problem.
Right. Yeah, that is so aligned with our thinking here. We talk a lot about worldview. We talk a lot about values, because if you start with that, then you're really creating a tribe of people who want to belong to you, mm-hmm. and they see the world the same way, right?
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And it's a process of understanding that there's millions. I pretty much guarantee, unless you have the formula to solve coronavirus, mm-hmm. short of that, a million or more people selling the same kind of product or service that you do.
Right.
Some will do it better, some will do it worse. You're gonna be right in the middle of something.
Right.
And so why would they buy from you? And that is what you need to share when you speak, is who are you as a human being, and why another human being should walk a walk with you.
Right. Yeah.
Because whatever you're selling, you're journeying with a client in solving a problem they had. For example, simple. I bought a car in December. And it's a pretty straightforward thing, right? You buy the car, you drive it away, end of the story. But it is a journey. And maybe it was a journey that took like 2 or 3 weeks with the person that was selling me the car. But it was the first car I ever bought. Like I've had cars, of course, but we bought it with my husband, or I bought it as a family car for my kids. This is the first car I was going to buy for my business, under my business name, my choice of car. I don't know. There was a process there. Mm-hmm. And it was an emotional journey. Like there was just a little bit of scariness, a little bit of, I'm not sure what I'm buying because I'm not a very knowledgeable car person, nor do I want to be, but also I don't want to get scammed. So there was like an emotional component to me buying that car. And when I went to the dealership and started talking to someone, I needed someone that would walk with me through it, that would A, make me feel safe, mm-hmm. B, make me feel that he or she had the best interests in mind for me, the customer, and that at the end of the day, I would solve the problem, which is I need a car, but I need a car that was a good investment, that was going to do what I needed to do, and I would be proud of. Right. Does that make any sense?
Yeah. Well, what comes to mind is the word empathy, and that's mm-hmm. pretty much all we base our marketing around. Is like, if you can put yourself in your customer's shoes, and in your case, this person, needed to understand your needs And in a way, also your values. I know, buying a car is maybe, an extreme example because we don't do that every day. But this person needed to really understand what you're going to use this car for, what kind of person you are almost. So it really is important to be able to use empathy. So if we bring that back to public speaking, what is our main goal if we decide, okay, we're going to put together a keynote speech and going on stage and use it as part of our promotion, like we said before, using it to get people to know about us? What's our main goal?
So the main goal is when you use speaking to grow your business, and I know there's a lot of self from stage and all kinds of things you can talk about here, but when I coach my clients, I say this is a first date. Imagine that you are dating, right? And you're looking for a partner. So in your first date, you really are not proposing marriage.
Right.
Or at least you shouldn't do a marriage proposal. Maybe a dating proposal or a next date proposal, but not a full marriage proposal. And what I mean by that is that if you've never met the audience and they're meeting you for the first time, it's important to create an experience where the audience A, feels safe with you, B, gets curious about your work, D, ABC, C, feels that they're getting tangible information that serves them for whatever they are in need of, like that whatever you're saying is solving their problem, and that they have an opportunity, and you create what is called a pull opportunity, where the audience pulls from you and says, I want more. Whether that is a consultation after you're speaking, or a free resource, or a low investment product, whatever it is, it's a non-risk action that the audience can take to go on a journey with you. Does that make sense?
Okay. So the call to action is kind of a next date, if you will. It's
exactly a next date. And depending on what kind of environment you're in, it will look very different, because some places you can sell. And so you can sell something or you can sell your book, right, or you can sell something for low investment that feels like a natural fit.
Right.
What you don't want to do, because then that gets kind of tricky in the building of the relationship, is to go from we've never met to a $10,000 program coaching thing with me.
Right.
That jump is too broad and too big. I'm not saying you can't sell those services. You absolutely can. And we do here at Masters in Clarity. But it's usually not just from the audience perspective, but from us as a company, is this a right fit client? And the client needs to say, is this a right fit problem solver? So there's kind of a dating that needs to happen. And there's many, many, many ways to do it. If you're just starting, you can do it with, private consultations or meetings one-on-one. If you're more sophisticated and you're doing a service or a product that can be sold kind of online, you can do it through very strategic and gentle marketing automations. So there's a lot of ways, and we're not saying you can't do things, but just like you, Sarah, teach the gentle, I say, just make sure that the dating rhythm feels right for both parties.
Right. Yeah.
If either one is rushing, one of them will pull out.
You talk about moving an audience as well. So how would that look like to really get them engaged emotionally? How would that look like?
Well, I think what we can do, and I'm happy to share this image with you that you can put in the show notes, but I want to walk you through what I teach, the 7 steps to write your talk.
That sounds great.
Because the 7 steps will really break it down of what components does your talk need to have to truly move your audience to action.
Let's do it. Yep.
Let's do it. So let me just, before we do it, there's two things I want to share here. One is the role of emotion and the concept, or the awareness, if you want, that a speaker, when they are delivering a talk to an audience, they're taking their audience through an emotional experience. Whether they know it or not, it's true. And so you might as well be aware of it and be very careful in the design of it, because your audience are human beings, and human beings feel. And so your words will create a reaction. They will feel in a certain way. And so you might as well just be intentional about how they feel. So in the first step, you want your audience to feel seen and heard. And that's kind of weird when they're not either talking or maybe being seen because the lights are on you, right? But so how do you have your audience feel that you're talking to them, particularly as an individual? And I'll show that well, let's just start with that. So how do you do that? The way I coach it is, there's many ways to do it, but I'm going to give you two ways to do it. One is called resonant questions. So resonant questions are very, very simple. You've heard them 100 million times. And it's when the speaker goes on stage, doesn't say any words of, hi, my name is Joe, or good morning, like none of the things that you think you should do because it's a polite thing to do. They don't do any of that.
Right.
They walk on stage, and the first word out of their mouth is a question that resonates with the audience. For example, who here is stuck in their homes? Or who here is afraid of XYZ? Or who here has seen a loved one suffer from addiction? I mean, I'm just throwing spaghetti to a wall here, but any question.
For me, for example, it would be a question about who here has been appalled by hype marketing, or something along those lines, right?
Well, so your audience typically would be business owners who are not really who need to improve their marketing, correct?
Right.
So then I would say your question is, who here is afraid of marketing?
Right. Yeah. Or hates marketing. Yes.
Yeah. Or hates marketing, or feels that marketing is a dirty word.
Yeah. Okay.
Actually, my mother is Austrian Argentinian, and she thinks marketing is a dirty word. But interestingly enough, she's 71. She sent an email because she actually, you'll know what I'm talking about. She takes a group of people to the Salzburg Opera Festival every year, not far from where you in Salzburg, Austria. Nice. And this year she sent an email to all her past clients. Instead of calling, she usually calls everybody, goes out for coffee and tells them about the new season and who's playing and all that. But this email, I don't know, she was busy or whatever. So she said, I'm just going to send an email to see who is interested. And if nobody's interested, then I won't do it this year. Meaning, like, I'm getting old, I don't want to do it. Mm-hmm. So she sends an email, and within 3 days, she had about 25 people wanting to travel to Salzburg this August 2020. And she said, that was amazing. I said, yes. I said to her, but Mama, that was marketing. And she said, no, it wasn't. I said, yes, it was. It's just your version of it.
Yeah.
So anyway, I digress. But so resonant question is one way to do it. The other way to do it is to start with a story. We talked about storytelling. Mm-hmm. When I talk about storytelling and speaking, it's about using story as a tool to bring your idea forward.
Right.
Not about story as your talk. And that's a big distinction I want to make, because a lot of speaker coaches talk about craft a great story and the audience will engage and follow. Craft a great story and the audience will likely engage, and they actually probably will feel really empowered or sad or whatever you make them feel. But not likely they will engage afterwards. And here's why. Because the story is something that we use to bring our ideas forward. Because a story is about a moment in time where something happened, and it's usually about you or something you witnessed. But it's not about your audience. And if you just tell a story, you have to leave give the audience what I call the digesting job of translating the story into their lives and see what they can learn from it.
I'm not sure I got that. So you're saying don't tell your own stories, but somehow...
No. So I say so I'm going to teach you in this framework how to use storytelling to share your message. Right. Understanding that storytelling on its own, if you just go on a stage and you tell a story and you walk off the stage without really extracting the lessons out of it or identifying the ideas behind that story, you're probably going to leave the audience a little bit empty.
Right. Your story, basically the stories that you tell need to somehow be related with your main point that you're trying to make with your speech.
Yes. And you have to make those points, not just leave them inside of the story, because a story without that extracted is like a gift not unwrapped.
Right. Okay. That makes sense.
And so when you start, the first step is engage your audience, is you do it with restaurant questions or a story in, and there's a way to tell that story, but you could use a story to get started. So let's say that we did that successfully and your audience is like, oh my God, she's talking to me. She knows exactly what I'm going through or my pain, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so the next step is to present your idea. So we're building your talk, right, Sarah? So you start with saying who here is afraid of marketing or hates marketing or feels that marketing is a dirty word. And so the next step is for you, Sarah, to say, I believe that every time we communicate about our work, we are actually marketing and that there's many ways to do it and it can be gentle.
Right.
So that would be your idea. Now you engage them in the beginning, you are talking to them, and now they're curious enough to want to know what you're talking about. So you share, you say marketing doesn't have to be a dirty word and it can be done gentler. Now they're curious and maybe they're feeling hopeful if you did your job well. The emotion that you want them to feel in this second step is hopeful, meaning they know they're business owners. They know they have to market, but they hate it. And they've been having this back and forth fight with marketing for so long, but their business is stagnant. They want to grow. And so now you're giving them a way to solve this inner fight and say, you can actually grow your business. You can do it with integrity. You can honor your values. You don't have to turn into a snake, and I will show you how.
Okay, so for now, the two feelings we have generated are first probably curious and engaged, and then for the second one, hopeful. So there's hope.
Yeah,
feeling.
Right? Yeah, because now you're presenting an idea that can solve their problem.
Right. Okay, let's move on to the third step.
And so you do that very succinctly. So now, if you did these two steps right, they're like, okay, but wait a minute. I'm feeling a little hopeful, but who is this girl, Sarah? And does she actually know anything about what she's talking about? So now they need to know who you are.
Right.
And one speaker once told me, well, I don't really want to introduce myself because it's not about me. And I said, look, would you go and have open heart surgery with a surgeon that you don't know anything about?
Right.
No. You would want to know how many patients he's worked with or she's worked with and what is the success rate. And so it's step number 3 is when you introduce yourself, and it's not about a whole list of your resume. It's about what about you makes you the right messenger to give me hope.
I love that you use the word messenger. I have this Post-it note on my computer that says, make me the messenger.
Yeah. When we accept the mission and the role of being a messenger for a higher level of work, getting or not getting on a stage is a self-centered conversation. Accepting the role of being a messenger means that you will get on a stage even if you're not, even if you have fear about it.
Right. That's exactly what happened to me. Like I told you offline before we started recording.
I didn't want to say it. I wanted you to say it.
Yeah, no, it's so true. For me, it's, and I also saw that in your book. We're going to talk about your book later, but for me, it's really this thing where it's like, well, not in a million years did I think I was, going to stand on a stage and speak, but the message is so important to me that I will do it for that reason.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that is when you begin to lead a business and a conversation bigger than yourself.
Right.
And that's the work that I do. I make my clients feel so in love and so committed to the work that they're doing that they're willing to do things even if they're afraid to do them.
Right.
Because our own drive might not take us there, but knowing that what we do can help someone else will.
Yeah, beautiful. All right, step 4.
And so we did step 3. So now step 4. Now this part is easy because this is probably what 99% of speakers do from the beginning without the 1, 2, 3, and is go and teach whatever you're teaching. So for you, it would be, I believe, you introduce the idea of gentle marketing, and you can say, here's how I do gentle marketing. There's a 7-step mandala, there's a 7 P's, and you share that image and you explain what those are, and you just teach.
Right.
Which you can do very well, which is what I'm doing right now.
Right.
So this is what I call the meat and potatoes of your talk. This is when 80% of your time will be spent. And this is probably the easiest thing for most speakers because this is just talking about their work. I don't need to script this, right?
Right.
But by doing 1, 2, 3, you kind of prep your audience to receive your teaching.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
You allow them to be ready to pull your information versus getting on the stage and dumping your mandala 7 P's and hoping that they will be ready. I'm just making a joke, but it's just what most speakers do. They just walk on stage and deliver their teaching. They didn't prep the audience to receive it.
Right.
So we did step 4. It's a lot. Most of the time that you have on stage is going to be spent on step 4. And then you go to step 5, which is a simple touch point on reminding the audience of what you're talking about. So let's say you do your 7 mandala, 7 P's. You say, I believe, and through this mandala, I've been able to, in my experience and in my work, I know that marketing can be gentler. It can be this or that. Like you kind of do a retouch on the core idea.
Okay.
It's called remind them of the core idea. And then step 6 is when you begin to help your audience dream. Because they've been listening to you, the brain is set up for receiving information. They haven't really had a chance to process information, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or digest. So here's when you say to your audience, what would be possible for your business if you were able to implement gentle marketing? Mm-hmm. What would be possible if you can give more work to more of your team members? What would be possible if more, I don't know, let's say that you are, or whatever you do, more, what would be possible if more people can receive your support or your services? What would the world look like?
Yeah.
And so
imagine.
Exactly. The imagine part of your talk. Yeah.
Right.
And once you do that, you're now, what they're feeling is they're back to hope, but also there's an excitement that you opened up. There's this feeling of possibilities that you open up for them. Mm-hmm. You don't just hope. Now they had hope. They felt safe when you introduce yourself. You made them feel safe. When you bring your core teaching in step 4, they feel empowered because now you give them the tools.
Right.
You remind them of the core idea. Now is the empowerment paired with the hope they felt originally. And in step 6, they're not only empowered and hopeful, but they believe that they can, and they can see how it can make a difference.
Beautiful.
Okay?
Yeah.
And last step 7 is you make them feel committed by giving them a piece of homework. It could be something like download my mandala or book a consultation or enroll in my whatever program. Like you say, you invite them to continue walking with them in whatever way you do that.
Okay.
And that's my 7 steps.
Amazing. I have some questions. You talked about storytelling. So would we weave stories into the 4th step, which is where we do our teaching, or is the teaching really just explaining and, fact-based?
Absolutely storytelling. So the way I teach the 4th step is I usually say, even if you have a lot to teach, well, it depends. If you have a 90-minute or a 60-minute presentation, it'll be different than if you have 20 minutes, right? But let's say that you have a short engagement. So of all the things that you want to teach, let's say that you present the 7P mandala, maybe you only go deep into the top 3.
Right.
Okay. And what you do is you want to share facts and information wrapped in the sweetness of a story. So for example, you can say, one of the pieces promotion. And I had this client who came to me who had spent thousands of dollars on blah, 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 with just no results. Right. And in our work together, we broke down, we got really clear about how to really engage her audience. And we created an organic promotion using, poetry. I don't know, I'm just making it up. And we were able to not only convert or get a lot of leads, but her investment was 1/3 of what she did when she was pushing information down people's throats through Facebook ads.
Right.
I'm just making that.
Yeah.
But
that's
so you
great. That's a story, right? You're telling a story of one of your clients. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Another question about the 7th step. So the way we end our talk, I guess, again, depends what kind of talk it is. If you're allowed to, share a next step, a call to action in a TEDx talk or a TED talk, usually I don't think there's any kind of website links or call to action like that, right? Yeah. So it really depends on the setting, of course, where you're invited to speak. And also it depends on how well you know the audience and how targeted they are. In a TEDx, I guess it's a bit more difficult to know who exactly is in the audience than in a speech where you're hired, and exactly that they're all business owners. So really adapt.
Well, so for TEDx, so here's what I want to say about that. For TEDx, you kind of have to have a very gentle dance because you want to be speaking to the audience in the room, but being aware that I'm just talking of a TEDx talk as an investment, right? Mm-hmm. If you're going to make that effort of doing the work to be on TEDx, you want to make sure that is speaking to a global audience of your ideal audience, because the life of a TEDx on video is much longer than the day of the event.
That's interesting. So really the longevity of a TEDx is much longer than any other speaking engagement because they offer to, the video that you then get to use as promotional content really on your website. You can link to it and all of that, right?
Mm-hmm. Exactly. It's the life. Exactly. The real impact of TEDx is in the post-event video.
Yeah, it's interesting. Wow, this has been amazing, Dolores. Thank you so much. Those 7 steps. And if you could send me the image, I'll definitely include that in the show notes. Now, we're recording this episode during the COVID-19 crisis, right, at the beginning of April. Now, this thing had a huge impact on the speaking industry. I wanted to ask you, since you're an expert in this area, how do you see the speaking industry change going forward? Will we just go back to how it was before, or do you see any changes coming?
I think, we'll talk about speaker specifically. Everything's going to change, I believe. And I think there's a couple of things. number one, speaking is more important than ever. A lot of in-person events many have canceled, but many have dared to try something new, and they are testing doing their events digitally.
Right.
And I think they're going to find that there's a great power to it. And they might see better results to some extent than they're in person, because events have been having a hard time getting human beings in the room, simply because of cost of travel, hassle of travel, time, the amount of time that is lost moving from one country to another.
Right.
And so I think speaking is going to explode, and digital marketing is going to explode, because now you not only can so if you're speaking to 1,000 people, you don't really get to, as an audience member, you don't get to hang out with the speaker after they get off stage.
Right.
They really don't, because it's hard to maneuver. But right now you could have a online event with a key speaker deliver a message, and then maybe that speaker can hang out in a room with a chat and answer questions, which would be very difficult to do in a big event. So that's just a simple idea I just shared, and there's a lot of new platforms coming out beyond Zoom that are going to make this so much easier. So I would say stay tuned. I think the speaking world and the way we promote is going to be definitely disrupted. And when I say disrupted, I'm using that word intentionally, because disruption doesn't mean negative. It's just disrupted. It's neutral, and it will be positive in the way that we embrace the disruption.
I like that. I like the positive outlook, and in a way, I think it will become more important to focus on our message, because in a crisis like this, people's values change. And so I think gentle marketing will also become more and more important, because people they just don't have the patience anymore for a crappy speech, where they could be doing something more important with their time.
Exactly.
Yeah. Now, you have a free ebook that's called The TED Way to Raise Visibility and Get More Clients. So I will definitely link to that in the show notes. Where else do you want people to connect with you, Dolores?
Yes, you can come to mastersinclarity.com, and there's a big orange button that says Start Here. And so come in and have a conversation with us, and we can tell you about our work, and we can learn about where you need clarity, and if it's a good fit and our values align, maybe we can explore working together.
Wonderful. This has been great. I have one last question. What are you grateful for today or this week, Dolores?
Yeah, and you said that you framed this conversation in the COVID-19. So I have to say that I'm grateful that all my 4 children are home, and that I live in a house. So I spend the weekend with my hands in the dirt. I don't think I've ever prepared my garden so early in the season, but we can't wait to be outdoors.
Yeah,
so I'm grateful for that.
Thank you so much for taking the time to have this conversation with me.
Thank you so much, Sarah, for having me.
Thank you.
I hope you enjoyed this episode. Please find out more about Dolores and her work at mastersinclarity.com. And if you're prepping a TED Talk, check out her free The TED Way to Raise Visibility and Get More Clients ebook. You'll find the link in the show notes. Also, our next Gentle Business Circle is coming up on August 12th. And if you share my worldview, I'd love to hang out with you in the circle. It's a safe zone to hang out with other imaginal selves and help each other build our business and grow our impact. When you join the circle, you get one live monthly circle Q&A call with me and fellow gentle marketers. Of course, if you can't make it live, you can always submit your questions in advance. You also get a monthly newsletter, you get the replay, and as a bonus, you get my authentic and fair pricing mini course that's valued at $97. These calls take place once per month, every second Wednesday of the month, and this next one is coming up on Wednesday, August 12th. There are different levels of support starting out at $7 per month, so you can find out more at sarahsenecroce.com/circle. I really hope you'll join me on this journey to a kinder marketing paradigm. Please invite your friends to join us by sharing this episode or the Gentle Business Manifesto with them. Both can be found at thegentlebusinessrevolution.com. Let's be the change we want to see in the world. Talk to you again soon.